Hello and welcome back to our show. For the next couple of weeks, actually, I used to say month because we started this back in June, but for the next couple of weeks, we will be allowing the viewers to get to know our Democratic political candidates for 2020. We will want you guys to learn about them, hear them out, and make an informative decision. Today, without further ado, I would like to introduce Richard Sterner, or Rich.
Rich.
Hello, Rich. Would you like me to call you Richard or Rich?
Rich. Rich
Rich.
is, yep.
Welcome and thank you for giving us the time. And if you don't mind introducing yourself and telling our listeners who you are and a little bit about you.
Sure. Sure. I'm Rich Sterner. In fact, that's how my name appears on the ballot, too. Rich
Yeah.
Sterner. And I am running for Senate District 33, which is the eastern half of Franklin County, all of Adams County, a little piece of York County around Hanover, that'd be Penn Township and West Manheim Township, and also a little piece of western Cumberland County, like around Shippensburg. If you think of Shippensburg School District, that's kind of my area. I have been in education most of my life. I finished my career as a high school principal back in 2015, and almost immediately joined the school board of a rival school district. And I am currently the vice president of the Bermudian Springs School Board. So I've always kept my fingers in education. My father was the superintendent of schools, so I've been around it my whole life. And that's obviously going to be a very important thing for me when I get elected this fall. Um, so when I got the call, and I actually got a call asking me, would you be interested in running for state office?
Mhm.
I was a history teacher, and it's hard for a history teacher to say no to something like that. And then when I started looking into the issues and who I was running against, I thought, this is something important, something that needs to be done. This is I need to be the reasonable voice in this election, because my opponent is pretty far out to the right and pretty outspoken to the right. And the people of Senate District 33 need a reasonable voice to listen to and to hear. And that's who I am, Rich Sterner.
And what is more than reasonable voice? We always have a soft spot for teachers. And you're not just a teacher, you're a teacher and principal and a history teacher.
That's right.
Exact perfect cup of tea. Okay, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about history and we're going to talk about you and your experience. But to start, what is your campaign is running on? What people need to know? What issues that matter to you?
Well, the issues that matter to me most, obviously, I said this already, education is at the top of my list. I know people worry about their property taxes and so forth, and I worry about that too, of course.
Yeah.
And I think we confuse that issue to some degree. If you take a look at how schools are funded, and you actually study that, and this is not necessarily a Republican or a Democrat issue. This is a have and have-nots issue in Harrisburg. But for a long time, if you go back, actually, if you go back to like the 1980s, mid 80s, late 80s, Harrisburg was funding public schools at a 50% rate. That means that the revenue that public schools got, at least in Senate District 33, was about 50%. Harrisburg is now sending to public schools in this area about 32% of the revenue. So when you say, oh, the school boards are pumping up our property taxes, they have no choice because we get shortchanged by Harrisburg every year. And what we need to do in Harrisburg is reevaluate that funding formula and figure out why that's happening. We need to prop up the funding to our public schools so that we don't overburden our property tax, our property owners. And that's something I'm looking forward to investigating, looking into. And I don't want to give away local control at the same time.
Mhm.
I think some of the plans that have been brought forth, many of the plans by the Republican caucus have given away a lot of local control, and I'm very concerned about that. So I think we need to come up with a funding formula that alleviates property taxes, but also maintains local control at the local level, of course. That's one of my main concerns. Another concern I have in education are the standardized tests that we give students starting in third grade, which, by the way, as an educator, I can tell you it's way too early to start giving kids standardized tests in third grade. I think there are other better ways to evaluate how schools are doing other than doing a standardized test that only tests in language arts, at least at the high school level, language arts, algebra, and biology.
Mhm.
Everything else gets put to the side, and we concentrate on those three areas, and it narrows our curriculum down to this much. And we don't pay that much attention to those subjects that aren't on the test. If I could take you to a principal's meeting, it would make your head spin that
Mhm.
the discussion always centers around how are your test scores? How are you improving your test scores? And it shouldn't be. Those discussions should be around how are we improving student learning? How successful have our students been? That's where our discussion should be, not about the test scores. It should be about
Yeah.
our students. And we need to fix that as well. I'm also very concerned about COVID-19. We're not past this yet. And frankly, we should have been a long time ago. So I'm a believer in what Joe Biden has to say about that and what his plans are. And and I go back to what the director of the CDC, Donald Trump's director, said just a few weeks ago. If we just wear this mask, if 90% of us just wear this mask, this could be behind us at this point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my opponent never wears a mask, and does rallies against mask wearing. And well, that's just wrong.
We
But
have a leader that is supposed to lead by example, and he's not wearing a mask either,
right,
and lied about the statistic, and as a result, 200,000 American lives were lost because of
yes,
that.
that is correct. And we're not doing anything at this point to fix that.
Mhm.
And obviously, we need to fix that. We need to fix that in the worst way. And we should advocate for problem solving and not pointing fingers to say, well, it's their fault or their fault. We need to fix the problem. And that's what Harrisburg should be doing. And that's what Washington, D.C. should be doing. And I'm hoping that when Joe Biden wins the election, that we'll start on that pathway.
And to just go back to the funding, this is really a major issue. And everyone listening to us right now, first, thank you for joining us and listening. But I think everyone listening to us right now or will listen later can relate to this. The mother, I'm concerned about my kids' education and availability of the funding. And it's alarming to me that you said 50% were given before, and now it's in the 30s. So we
Yes.
lost almost 20%, and that's not a small amount. We should add it more to the 50, not take away from it. And that's one of the issues, should be the main concern for everyone out there, and to know who has the plan to correct that and fix it. And you mentioned that your opponent is against all of that. uh, for some people listening who doesn't know who Rich is and what you stand for, they might say, how do we believe you? You might just be talking the talk like the person before you. What makes you different?
Well, what makes me different is my experience in public education. I had to live this. I'm the
Hmm.
one that the superintendent would come to and say, we're not getting the money that we thought we were going to get from the state government. You're going to have to cut your program by a certain period. You're going to have to cut your program by 10%.
Hmm.
Or he would come to me and say, well, we have a retirement coming up in the English department. You're going to have to figure out how to live with not replacing that retirement. And it's like, oh my goodness, I thought we were teaching kids.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to walk into a building thinking, how can we retrench programs like this? Because I'm a firm believer in education. Education is the magic bullet that can fix so many things if we just put the money into it and not be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. If we would invest in education, we could fix so many problems that we deal with now. And it would be cheaper if we did it with education. Um, anyway, I had to live
Oh,
that.
that's a very good point.
Yeah. Well, I had to live that every day. And people would say to me, including my opponent, would say, my opponent wants to do away with property taxes. And I can understand everybody would love to do away with property taxes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that we'll be able to make that happen and still maintain local control. But I think that we could way lower property taxes if we put the right package forward.
Hmm.
So anything is better than nothing, right?
Yeah.
So if we can reinvest in public education, I think we could do so much toward lowering property taxes and propping up our public schools.
And
We have
that's
the Pennsylvania has the seventh highest population in the country, but we rank somewhere around 47th in our investment for public education.
yeah,
That's wrong. That's
yeah.
simply wrong. We should be investing in public education to the point where we could have world class public schools. That's
Mhm.
what we owe our children, and that's the kind of believer I am in education. Uh, so I don't know what else. That's the passion that I have for this subject. That's why I was in education. It was the hardest job I ever loved, and we can do it. We can make this happen, and we can turn many things around if we did that. Now it'll take some time, but we can turn around poverty rates. We can turn around so many issues that uh, it would make your head spin if
Yeah.
if we could just latch onto that and become believers ourselves.
And who is better to do this than an educator, a teacher, and a principal? I
Yeah,
don't, I can't even think of anyone could do the job better than you. And
thank you.
it's just from reading about you. And I encourage everyone listening to us now, even if you don't live in that district, you have someone live there, talk to them, have them get to know what Rich Sterner stands for
Right.
and why they should support him. We're not here trying to influence your opinion, although I would love to, but we're trying to give you the platform to learn about the candidate, to get to know them, because this year we don't have a straight ticket, as we mentioned in all our shows before. So you can be a Republican, you can be a Democrat, you can be independent, but it's still learn about your local, and you can still vote for Rich Sterner. That's you touched on COVID, and I see in your website you're talking about healthcare. Um, yeah, so if you don't mind covering, what is the plan? I know our system, educational system, need to be fixed.
Right.
Gerrymandering, we have the systemic racism, we have the division of our district based on colors, ethnicity, etc. But the healthcare system need to be addressed, and that's the huge issue that affecting all of us. So
Yes.
what is the problem that you're seeing you want to fix?
Healthcare should not be a privilege. Healthcare should be a right. It should be a right of every American. We're the richest country in the world. Why don't we have the best healthcare system in the world? And I'm not talking about frontline nurses or hospitals. I think we have great nurses and great hospitals. I'm talking about health insurance. What? Why are we stuck in this quagmire of health insurance?
Yeah.
Why? Why does a patient uh, have to die or have to juggle whether or not they need the life-saving medication or put food on the table?
Hmm.
That's actually, it's embarrassing to have to say that. And we live in the United States. Healthcare, again, healthcare should not be a privilege. Healthcare should be a right, and it should not be predicated on whether or not you have a job. It should be something available to everybody. And that's something that I believe in. And that's something that I think we need to work toward. And if I can't do it at the state level, I will do everything I can at the state level, but I will also use my influence at the national level and work with those folks in Washington, D.C. to lobby, to do whatever I can to make that happen.
And that's one of the things we talked about a lot. Um, Many people are concerned about the presidency and they just go and vote for the president. That's all they know. But we are, really, really concerned about our local candidates and officials. Those are the ones who are going to determine your taxes, what is going to go in your local area, your district, your township. They are equally important as the president and Congress member. Uh, we always say that you cannot have a house, a steady house, without a foundation, and you guys are the foundation of this whole country. Um, this is just a reminder to everyone out there that when you go in to vote, remember, you're not just voting for uh, Joe Biden
Right.
or Trump. You are voting for your local officials. You have to read. We don't have a one ticket this time. You have to actually learn about your candidates and choose them. And this is, to me, this is a little bit dangerous. I like it, but I think it's a risk, right? Isn't it?
I think it's a little bit risky, but I think it also kind of forces you to learn a little bit more about uh, your citizens' obligation to
Yeah.
what you owe back to the country. And actually, I wish we knew more about that. I kind of wish we taught more about that in school. You know, the political process. I'm not advocating that we teach politics to the extent that, well, you need to be this or you need to be that, but we should teach that political process and
Mhm.
that obligation that all American citizens owe back to the country. I don't think we do enough of that kind of stuff. And but but we all need to think that way, and we all need to think it's my duty to
Yes.
vote, and it's my duty to learn about all of those candidates that I'm going to look at, as you refer to the down ballot candidates,
Mhm.
because you're right, we're all important. We're
Yeah.
all important.
Yes, you are. Another area that got my attention, the gun safety. I know you had a slogan there, and it's "Don't confiscate." If I'm saying it right,
Yeah, that
I,
was really odd.
I have it up here, but I think that's another thing. The Second Amendment. Right. You had a slogan here that I liked. I don't see it. Oh, regulate, don't confiscate.
Regulate, don't confiscate. That's right.
And that's one of the fear tactic the opponents are using to scare people away from Democrat.
That's
By saying, they're taking away your Second Amendment. So we have to prove them wrong. We have to talk about that issue.
yeah.
I don't like guns myself, but I know that I'm not going to take anyone's Second Amendment or right of owning a gun. We just advocate for safety. So where you stand in the Second Amendment issue?
Well, I support the Second Amendment, but I would also support a better background check as well.
Mhm.
Um, I was a principal, and I need to tell you a story because I
For it.
think it's important for you to know this. But just before I retired as a school principal, one of the last things that I had to do was figure out an escape route out of my building for students to another. Actually, it was an industry nearby my high school, and it was a secret route for students to take in case of an active shooter in the building.
Mhm.
So if I could somehow release a classroom safely out of the back of the building, uh, that that they could follow a pathway up and safely get into another building far enough away and safely, and then get enough students up there, and then figure out how to get them from there to another school building for reunification with parents.
Mhm.
And then I only shared that with a few people because it had to be kept under wraps because we didn't want people to know that this is what we were going to do. And then I only shared it with myself, my secretary, and my assistant principals
Mhm.
because the thought was that we wouldn't all survive a shooter in the building. And
Mhm.
that makes you think a little bit. Uh, and that makes you think about gun safety. And that makes you think about that whole process. And yeah, I think gun safety is something that we should do a better job with. I would even advocate to some degree. I think you could start hunting at the age of 12.
Mhm.
I think that's correct. And I would almost advocate having gun safety courses in schools because uh, our kids go out, at least in Senate District 33, when they're done with football practice or soccer practice or school, they often go out and go small game hunting after that. And that's just the way life is here in South Central Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
And I think that if we could make that something that we control, and we can say that these kids have gone through a solid gun safety course to kind of take the edge off of kids not knowing the dangers of what a gun can do. Because to a certain degree, I think our kids become desensitized
Yeah.
to what guns do. And I think it would be great to have,
And education.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's frightening. It's frightening sitting there knowing that today could be the day. It's
Yeah.
frightening to have a parent call you and say, "Can you guarantee the safety of my son or daughter today?" And the
Mhm.
fact is that your answer has to be, "I can't even guarantee my safety, let alone your son or daughter, but send them to school anyway."
Yeah.
And they do. And that's quite a responsibility.
And
And
it shouldn't be put on a teacher's shoulders, first of all, or those young kids who are there to learn. That should be their focus, their main focus. Uh,
yeah,
Going back to teaching, or you advocating for teaching the kids, in early age, how to safely use the hunting guns, and that's based on the area you're in. And regardless if I agree or disagree with exposing kids to guns at that age, if it's happening anyway, the
yeah,
parents are doing it, then I agree with you. We have to do it the right way. We have to teach them for their own safety.
yeah,
And when we say regulate, or when we say uh, show people how to use the gun safe and to store it safe. That's not just for others, that's for their own safety. We have a statistic, a higher number of people that were killed by their own gun or by accidents at
Yeah.
their own homes. And
Yeah.
that shouldn't happen at all,
Yeah.
right?
That is correct. And is we should do gun safety for parents too.
Mhm.
Are your guns locked up in a safe?
Yeah,
Can your kids get to your guns? Do you know how many gun suicides, funerals that I had to go to? It'll break your heart. Um, you just you can't not go through that stuff and not think about that and think we need to do something. We need to be proactive about this and not reactive about this,
yeah,
because reactive is just, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. It's making me want to cry now when I think about it.
yeah,
Uh, I would much rather be proactive.
yeah. And not addressing an issue, that doesn't make it go away. I think
Correct.
a lot of people just say, okay, if you just don't talk about it,
Yeah.
guns, don't talk about guns, don't talk about racism, don't talk about inequality, don't talk about
Right.
those issues, and they will just disappear. That's not the case. I
Doesn't.
wish it's easy like that, but that's not the case. So basically your stance on the Second Amendment that regulate, don't confiscate.
Right.
Uh, Rich or any person that we bring in here, they're not just saying what you want to hear. He's talking about what he believes in. He's not there to take your guns.
That's
So
correct.
relax, 33 district.
Relax. Yeah.
He's not
Not
listening
going to
to
take your
his
gun.
tactic.
That's right.
And that's the way of putting fears and false information is the way is not it's a dictatorship tactic, and we're not trying to do that. We're trying to give you the chance to get to know what he's actually fighting for, and
Yeah.
then it's up to you to decide whether that suits you or not. But if I'm speaking on everyone is in your area who got to know you as an educator, he got to know you as a principal, and he got to know you as a person. They probably already know that you're a man of your words. You are
Yeah.
not just talking the talk, but you are
That's
going to walk the walk.
that's
And
right.
give him the 2 years. If he doesn't do a good job, guess what? This is democracy. We have another election, and you can elect them out, and
Yeah.
and that's what will keep uh, our public servants. I'm losing my thoughts, but it will keep them in line. That's the
Yep.
word I'm looking for.
That's
Uh,
right.
they're doing their job. If they don't do it right, they know that they will be replaced. And what is your stance on long terms, like even with the justice, the court, the Supreme Court, we're facing now Justice RBG and her tragic death. And to come to learn that there's so many justice that they've been there for longer than how I was alive in this world.
Right.
Yeah, are we advocating for short terms or for limitation, or where you stand when it comes
Well,
to limitation?
as I mean, it's hard for me to find fault in the founding fathers and what they did with the
Yeah,
Constitution. Um, I don't know that they were thinking about Donald Trump when they wrote that.
yeah,
Maybe they were. I'm not sure. We'll find out
think
on
so. I hope
November.
not.
But I'm concerned about what the Republicans are doing right now and
Yeah,
trying to rush this pick through, which is going to change the complexion of the court for a very long time.
yeah,
Uh, but I think I was listening to one of our Democratic senators earlier today on television.
mhm,
I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. She's the senator from Hawaii, actually, and she said that she's thinking about some of those options that people are thinking about, but she's ready. She's not quite ready to make that decision at this point. And I think probably the most popular option right now, I think, is expanding the court to make the numbers bigger, go from 9 to maybe 12, so that one president can't have that big of an impact on the court and make it swing so far from one side to the other. And I can understand that. Actually, Franklin Roosevelt talked about doing that at one point as well, and that went on the table and went off the table very quickly. So we'll see what happens. I'm not quite sure where I stand on that right now either. Uh,
That's fair
change,
enough.
yeah, changing the Constitution is a really big deal.
I
Uh,
think we're advocating for any changes in the constitutions, but just to consider, long-term elections and having someone who can serve in the office for 20, 15 years. I mean, if they're doing a good job by any means, yes, but term limitation is something that, I often ask about, but uh,
I
no,
think if you're talking about term limits on legislators,
yes,
I'm all
that's
for
what I
that.
meant.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Supreme Court justices.
And that too, but
Yeah,
that's another
that's
story.
another story. So,
That's for
but
another day.
term limits on legislators, I could go for that. I could go for that because I think that's one of the reasons why we've become so tribal in our
Mhm.
politics is just to stay elected, and I think that's wrong. We don't necessarily strive for the good of the people. We strive for the good of the party, and that's simply the wrong way to look at things.
And
And
we have Mr. Joe Waltz. His slogan is "People before party," and I like that.
yeah,
That's what we should all do. It doesn't matter what the letter behind your name, DR, as long as you are going to do the right job and do it for the people, then we should consider you for that office. Uh,
yes,
Talking about limitation and election, that will take me to one of your points, election integrity.
yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, election integrity would be um, well, just the opposite of what Donald Trump is trying to do right now.
Yeah.
Uh, we need to make sure that the vote is available to every citizen that is eligible to vote, and it scares me a little bit. Some of the of those forces that are trying to make it more difficult for people to vote.
Yeah.
I think when our state legislature passed Act 77 to
Mhm.
make mail-in balloting pretty universal in Pennsylvania, I think that's one of the better things that our Republican-led legislature did last year. I believe that was,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, people started questioning it after it was already in place for a
Yeah.
while, and they're questioning it only because Donald Trump brought it up in the first place.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this would have been smooth sailing the whole
Yeah.
way along. And those are the kind of things that we have to protect. And we have to protect the franchisement for minorities,
Mhm.
for people that have trouble getting to the ballot box. I would support even making election day a holiday in Pennsylvania. Uh, I think that would be a very supportive thing, and it would help to generate the kind of attention that election day deserves. The ballot box is the holy grail of democratic politics, and we need to hold it up like that.
Yeah.
Uh, it's one of the most special things that we have here in America, and we need to treat it exactly that way. So that's what I'm talking about. It's that important.
And we can't talk about election integrity and limiting population or specific race or group without mentioning the gerrymandering and
Right.
its effect. And Also the electoral college. Those are two of things that we really need to work on abolishing electoral college and trying to figure out and change or get rid of the gerrymanderings, which is for anyone out there who doesn't know what gerrymanderings is changing the voting district to create a result that help a specific party or group. And in this case, it benefited the Republican in 2016 because Hillary had the popular votes, but Trump won by electoral college. So we won't be in this position now if we can actually listen to the people who already voted Hillary in. So I'm hoping that won't be the case this year,
Me
but we can't just sit there and hope, everyone.
Right.
You have to vote. And you have to vote like your life depends on it. I say that every time, and I'm not going to get tired of saying it because your life, your kids' life, your neighbors, your whole family depends on your vote. And you cannot sit and stand and watch this year. This is not the time to
That's
say,
right.
I'm going to be independent. With all respect, due respect to independent parties, Green Party, this is not the time. We only have two parties. We have to elect one of them. And maybe after November 3rd, we can work hard in discussing having more than two parties, but that's not the time for this. So what do you think, Rich?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I think that uh, gerrymandering. First of all, I think we need a non-political
Mhm,
committee to work on uh, redistricting in Pennsylvania. I would support that. In fact, I know a bill just came out of committee, which my it came out of my opponent's committee, which
mhm,
he voted against. uh, but it still came out of committee, and I don't know when that will come up for vote, but we need that to happen. Uh, and as far as the electoral college, that's something that our founding fathers put in place because back in the day, of course, we didn't have television or radio, and it was harder for people to learn about who the candidates were for any particular race, even the presidential race.
mhm.
And I think that the Electoral College is a little bit of an outdated system. Now, people will tell you that, well, it helps my state have more weight in the election.
Mhm.
Well, the fact is, it helps more populated states have less weight in the election. Is that fair to that state? So you can argue it both ways. And I would argue for a popular vote election. I don't
Yeah.
know if you know this, but in the last several, since I want to say since George Bush, there's only been one Republican president elected and by the Electoral College and the popular vote, and that was George Bush's second election, his
Yeah.
second term. Otherwise, his first term and Donald Trump's first term, and who else? I'm trying to think. Well, I mean, those are the only Republican presidents elected. I'm sorry,
Electoral
but
college.
you get my drift. Yeah. So
Yeah.
something has to change. Something has to change.
And this is the time, everyone. This is the year where you can actually write our future. And
Yeah,
as a history teacher, I think
right.
you can relate to that.
That's right.
We don't want to repeat the same mistake that we did 3.5 years ago. And we cannot have this happening again. Getting back to your campaign, and you have like local emergency services, and uh, you talked about immigration reforms. Uh,
Yes.
can you explain that to everyone and let us know what you think?
Immigration reform.
Mhm,
Yeah, immigration reform is something that we have to pay very close attention to here in Senate District 33, particularly in Adams County. I think
mhm,
um, the fruit growers in our area count on immigration and people coming in from other countries to help work those farms.
Mhm.
And frankly, they treat them like family. At least the farmers that I know and that I've worked with before need those people, treat them like family, like I said, and use them all year long. It's not
Mhm.
like there used to be a migrant labor force that would just travel through. It's not so much like that anymore. They come, they stay, they become part of our community, and uh, they become entrenched in our economic system. We need them. We need them. So we have to be careful when we talk about uh, immigration reform. What are we doing to our farmers
Mhm.
in Senate District 33? So we have to be careful. And I know that it's a tense time in this area when
Yeah.
it comes to the Dreamers, DACA, ICE, and so forth. But we need to get past all of these Trump policies so that
Mhm.
we can take care of these people that help us put food on our tables. It's very important.
And to just learn that, uh, this country was built by immigrants.
Yeah,
We are all of us
yeah,
came here at some point. If it's not you and me, it's your mom, your dad, my mom, my dad, and we all contributed to our area some way or another. You
yeah,
just have to find, and a lot of people, when they say, "Oh no, they come here and take our jobs," do
yeah,
you really want to do that? Do you want to work in the farm and do what the people in, like, say, as an example, 33 district, working on helping the farmers?
right,
The jobs are there. No one is taking anyone's job, just like no one is taking anyone's gun. So we can't keep putting fear when we're dealing with human. We have to learn facts, and we have to know that there is a lot of jobs that no one here wants to do, but someone immigrated and left their home because of war, because of many issues, came here, and they have to start somewhere. They do
right,
those kind of jobs. So we
yeah,
survive on that. And like you said, they put food on our table, and because of them, we have fruits we can enjoy. We have milk. We have many other things, and they're not just valuable when it comes to farming, but a lot of other jobs that they are performing. So we have to be really careful, like you said, and sensitive about this subject. Um, there is an area that you talked about, and I'm not sure what do you mean when you say local emergency services. Is
right.
that uh,
Like firemen,
okay? Okay.
EMTs, and so forth.
Mhm.
And I know that right now, uh, from my understanding, in fact, that tomorrow night I have a Facebook Live that I do every Tuesday and Thursday
Mhm.
night at 7:30. That was a plug. And tomorrow night I'm going to be talking about this very issue. And
Tomorrow at 7:30 on Stern.
Facebook Live,
So
Stern PA.
I will share that later so people can join. But what are you going to discuss?
One of my dogs came in. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Um, uh, I'm going to be talking about the problems that our local emergency services face now. For
Mhm.
instance, particularly now with COVID and raising money. And I'm talking about volunteer services,
Yeah.
raising money, uh, recruiting people. It's not as easy as it used to be.
Yeah.
So you have to ask yourself a question when you hear that fire alarm go off. Think
Yeah.
about this: is the fire apparatus fully staffed?
Mhm.
Is there a fireman that are they all there that can run the hoses from the fire hydrant back to where they need to run?
Mhm.
And sometimes the answer is no. In this area, we're starting to see some of these fire departments uh, uh, join each other because they simply don't have enough firemen to staff the firehouse or to staff a fire call uh, normally. And we need to work on those kind of issues. We need to work on the money issues for our local emergency services and for the EMTs. The last thing I want to know is that if I'm having a heart attack and I call 911, that they don't have somebody at the local station that can come and help me, but they have to maybe get a station like 2 or 3 times as far away because there's nobody there. And we need to fix that. We need to fix that.
And I think that's an issue everyone listening to us right now can relate to. Just like we buy a car insurance and we hope we're never going to use it,
Yeah.
we have to have a hospital that is fully equipped with nurses, doctors, you name it. And the same goes for our fire department,
That's right.
EMT services. Hopefully, we don't need it, but if we do, we want to make sure that we will get the help in a timely manner. And that is not going to happen if we don't have volunteers, if we don't have people like Rich advocating. Honestly, you are the first one discuss this issue. I talked to many politics, and I want to thank you for that. I'm a nurse, that's one of my many titles, but as a healthcare worker, to have someone address my issue, it means a lot to me, and it made me think, this person is really, really trying to help the community. They're trying to help the 33 district in your case, by having local emergency services that are readily available. And you talked about leadership in the same thing. You talk about leadership, integrity, compassion, and honor, and that to me it speaks volume. When you have someone address that in their website or in their campaign, you're not just putting the things that everyone want to talk about, taxes, or I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. You are actually talking about things that matters to me personally, and I'm sure it matters to our listeners as well. So we want to thank you for that, first of all.
Thank you. Wow,
And
yeah. Thank you.
how people can help you. You are helping us by getting us volunteer. How people can help you and volunteer to your campaign.
Well, as we get, I call it the witching hour. As we get closer to the witching hour of
Yeah.
voting, first of all, make sure you vote. That's the first thing you can do. And whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, a Libertarian, a Green Party, whatever you are, just vote.
Yeah.
That's the first thing you can do. And if you're doing the mail-in ballot, make sure you're doing it correctly. Uh, that's number one.
Yeah.
Holy Grail. Take care of that first. Secondly, if you go onto my website, www.sternerforpa.com, I have a volunteer spreadsheet on there. You can sign up to be a volunteer.
Yeah.
Take a sign if you want a sign to put up in your front yard. That's always appreciated. Yeah, there can never be enough signs out there, and that's good. And if you want to donate, there can never be enough money, right? And we always appreciate
Especially
it.
around this time.
I'm sorry?
I said, especially around this time. It's not your normal campaign, right?
Right, that's right. Around this time, it's crunch time,
Yeah.
and we need that. So, and there's an Act Blue button. You can hit the Act Blue button and donate through Act Blue, and we would appreciate that. And anything else, if you have a special talent or anything, just let us know, and we'll put that on there, and we'll come to you. So we would appreciate anything you can do for us.
And if you don't live in the 33 district, and you know someone lived there, or even if you don't know anyone that lived there, you can volunteer. You can send postcards. You can do texting, and it's so easy. The texts are already there for you. You just hit send, and then reply, interact, and it will guide you through it. You can do phone banking as well, and the most important part is to donate money also, because they need stamps, they need those cards to send out. They need flyers. They need way for people to get to know your name, for example.
That's right.
So whatever you can do to help will be appreciated, especially now. We don't have all that time left. We have what, but a month
36
left?
day. 36 day.
And if you did not volunteer before, this is the time for you to act and do something. And if you go to Rich Stern or Stern for BA,
Sterner
I
PA.
post, yep, I posted that website, and I'm going to post it again. There is a link to like their Facebook page also. Like, share, and just share it. Social media is a powerful tool, so let us use that. Let's get people the chance to get to know Rich Sterner and get to know what he stands for and vote for him. And when he's elected, not if, when he's elected with all of your help, then all those issues we discuss will be addressed, and I am sure he will make a difference for his community, because to me, you got me at being a teacher and a principal. I mean,
Thank you.
that that's just like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris got us, with the full sentence.
That's right. That's right.
The full sentence. You got me by just being an
Yeah.
educator. And I hope everyone listening to us right now will do their part, share, comments, donate, volunteer, and mainly vote. Uh,
Yes.
Before we end, if you have to summarize what you stand for in maybe 5 minutes, so people can get to know you in 5 minutes, what would you say?
Well, I would say that I am a moderate Democrat, and I am a reasonable alternative to my opponent, who is Senator Doug Mastriano. Uh, I respect him. He's a service member, but um, I am a reasonable alternative. I used to be, at one point, I was actually a Republican up until about 1993, 94, when I became an educator. And uh, that's when I switched over to being a Democrat, because I didn't like what the Republicans were doing to education.
Mhm.
And so, uh, as a moderate Democrat, I think I speak in a real wide voice. Does that make sense?
Makes
And
absolutely
I
perfect sense.
think I can appeal to a reasonable Republican. If you listen to my opponent and you listen to me, you make the decision. You
Mhm.
decide. And I think that you'll find that I'm a reasonable alternative. And that's what I tell people. Uh, but you do the investigating. And I won't be mad. You can even yell at me, and I won't be mad. But I plan on being the representative for everybody in Senate District 33. Not just the people that like me, not just the people that I think I can make improvements for, but everyone. And I will listen to everyone. My door will always be open, 24/7. I'm at your service. And that's my plan for being a senator in Harrisburg.
And there you have it, everyone. Rich Sterner uh, for 33, District 33, which is, can you tell everyone uh,
Yes.
what is District 33 just
It's
before we
the eastern, basically, it's the eastern half of Franklin County,
end?
all of Adams County, the area of York County around Hanover, and also the western part of Cumberland County around Shippensburg.
Okay. If you live in that district, get to learn about Richard Sterner, get to know him, and make an informative decision. If you don't live in that area, we expect you to do a homework and share it with your family, friends, and do your part. And
That's right.
maybe vote. I cannot stress this enough. Unfortunately, our time is almost over. And before we end, I want to thank you, Richard, or Rich, for being here with us. And thank you for your service. And thank you for being an educator and for everything that you are doing currently to make our future and our kids' future better. And I want to thank our listeners for listening. And don't forget, to be the change that you want to see in this world, you have to be educated and politically active. And being politically active start with voting and for patriotic part. So please vote, vote, vote like your life depends on it. Vote like your family life depends on it because it truly does this year. And I just want to thank you. And if you know have few last words you want to say to everyone before we go, go for it.
I appreciate you having me on today. I appreciate all the listeners out there. If you have anything that you want to say to me, you can go through to my website. I answer to everybody. I don't delete anything, and I'll listen to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you everyone for listening. And we will see you on Friday.
Okay.
Everyone.
Thank you.